Hello, hello. No more boring Tuesdays. Welcome to Heart and Mind. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan, and today, it's getting juicy. We're talking about pulling the woke back to sanity. So I called it Pulled Back from the Abyss. Thank you for joining me, and I hope, however, you're joining me, whether you're on X, whether you're on Daily Clout, Rumble, Getter, Facebook, please sign in and send me questions and comments as we go. And oh boy, every Tuesday night. Now, not much usually happens on Tuesday, which is an advantage for us. So every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we are here for an hour. And the following day, you can look for the recorded episodes on Daily Clout, on Rumble, and I often download them on my X page. So if you follow me on X, it's just the A sign and Dr. Dina 1. So DRDINA 1. And you can actually watch the whole episode on my X page. And I hope you do it because you're going to find out information here you won't find out anywhere else. Why? Because I'm a social psychologist. Most people do not know what social psychology is. Social psychology is not like clinical psychology, but done in a group. It's not group therapy. What we study is how people learn, how they're influenced and persuaded and manipulated and coerced and indoctrinated, and we even look at brainwashing. This means we also study power dynamics and how people can change their minds, how we can actually go in and convince people, influence people to change their beliefs and their behavior. And in social psychology, we especially like studying ways we can do that without alerting the person that it was an outside force changing their mind. Most of the time, people will think it was their own idea, which is why I often put a rather dodgy looking scientist when I explain what social psychology is. I'm not joking. This is the evil science. We are the ones who specialize in getting you to gamble more than you can afford, buy things that you don't need, and vote for people that you don't trust. But I decided to work on the side of the angels, which is why I'm here. So, speaking of side of the angels, we all need to know what happened to us during the COVID era. It is not over. And if you look at the monkeypox that they tried to have, the bird flu that they tried to put across, the people who got away with coercing, convincing, indoctrinating us, making us terrified during the COVID era are still at it. So you need to know. And Naomi Wolf, Dr. Naomi Wolf, and others have put together a brilliant book with the latest analysis of the Pfizer clinical trial documents. You know, the ones they wanted to keep quiet for 75 years. So please support Daily Clout's historic work and get the information you need to protect yourself and your family by going on Amazon and getting your own copy of the Pfizer papers. So, insert evil laugh here. What are we talking about today? We're talking about pulling the woke back from the abyss. And unfortunately, it's not simple. And everything we're going to talk about, please know, I do not think you can try it once and it's going to work, okay? That's not how the mind works. These beliefs that the woke have embedded in the minds of their followers, they put a lot of effort to stick that in, and it's gone in deeply. But let's start talking about how we can pull them away from this, because they are getting more and more dangerous, more and more irrational. And if you're like me, you have friends and family among the woke. If you're like me, you work with people who have woke beliefs. So these aren't some people in a foreign nation. These are the people surrounding you everywhere you go. Your kids' school, any kind of community center you go to. If you need help, it's in law enforcement. We need to talk about bringing these people back to solid reality and solid values. So I hope you'll stay with me and think about what you need to know. Think about one person who's woke who you'd love to try this on. And please sign in and leave comments and questions. What do you think? Let's be real. Losing weight isn't just about looking good. It's also about taking back control of your overall health. 42% of adults in America are classified as obese. Obesity is directly linked to severe health issues, including heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and cancer. These illnesses are costing Americans over $173 billion a year in medical expenses alone. If you've tried diets and different workouts with no success, it's not your fault. Big food and big pharma have rigged the system against you by contradicting information, leaving you confused. But there's good news. The wellness company just launched Drop, a GLP-1 peptide oral drop formula developed by their chief medical board, specifically designed to support your metabolism, curb cravings, and help you shed weight. That's right, no injections or the risk of severe side effects like we're seeing with the Ozempic. Simply take Drop in water, gradually increase in quantity over time, and let your body do the rest. Start your weight loss journey today and get $50 off plus free shipping. Head to dailycloudhealth.com and use the code DailyCloud. Take action today for a healthier tomorrow. Well, okay, so all of you here, do you have somebody in mind? Because when you're learning things like this, just like if you've watched before, I told you the reason I take all this time to put these slides together. You might think, why does she have slides? I mean, I'm not a little kid. I can remember information if I hear it. Well, guess what? Studies have found that we all remember information better if we have a relevant image also accompanying the information. And because a lot of you watch this even while you're busy or whatever, that's the reason for the notes on the page. Because often when I do things in person, there are very few written words on the page. I rely on what I say and the imagery, but just in case, I want to make sure you're really clear on what's important. So before you start, think about that person that you would love to pull back from the abyss. A few things you should understand. Our beliefs actually alter the filter through which we see the world. So we don't all see the same world. We can all look at this. It's like people looking at a piece of art. Somebody sees one thing, somebody sees another. Or you know how those images that they have where if you stare at it long enough, you start to see something else? Well, that's what life is like. And when we get conditioned, when we have very powerful beliefs, part of what those beliefs will do is shape what we see, what we focus on, and what we ignore. So in effect, it actually changes the hue and it even adjusts the details of what you see. So somebody who's very objective will look at the picture on the left, they'd see people on both sides, they see shops on both sides. Somebody who's been taught differently with different beliefs would see it through the kind of rose-colored glasses and all the detail on the left would be gone. They wouldn't even, it could happen in front of their face and they won't even see it. Do you remember a few episodes ago when we talked about the invisible gorilla experiment, where almost half of the participants didn't notice a gorilla, somebody in a gorilla suit, who walked into the middle of these people passing a ball, because the participants were told, count how many times the ball goes through, or count how many times the ball is passed, how many times it's bounced. So people were focusing so much on that somebody in a gorilla suit walked in the middle, banged his chest, and walked out again, and almost half of the people didn't even notice the gorilla was there. Isn't that crazy? But we're all like that. So if you're telling yourself, if something's wrong, I'll know it, all of us have to be aware of the fact that not only our perception of what's happening will change with our beliefs, but sometimes even the details of what we see. Spring is here. But one thing that hasn't changed with the seasons is my focus on my well-being. And we all know one of the foundations of well-being is a good night's sleep. If I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well-being, it's taking the number one mineral for that. And it also helps me with focus, stress levels, and mood regulation during the day. Yes, I'm talking about magnesium. Specifically, I'm talking about the magnesium breakthrough by Bioptimizers. The 7 different forms of magnesium in this supplement are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. Pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded when you take magnesium, from the quality of your sleep to your brain function, from metabolism to stress levels. As things continue to change at high speed, you have to keep up. Can you do that without a good night's sleep and something to moderate your mood? Do yourself a favor and make magnesium breakthrough part of your daily routine so you can get the vitality you need to meet life's challenges. Go to bioptimizers.com/dailyclout now and enter promo code dailyclout to get 10% off any order. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you'll make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. Again, that's bioptimizers.com/dailyclout and use the promo code dailyclout. Now, here's the challenge that we have. The people who are behind the woke, now a lot of you, because you're my wonderful smart people, okay, I admit I'm biased, maybe not though. You wouldn't be watching this show if you were not someone brave enough to confront uncomfortable information, if you weren't someone who wants to stay on top of things. And one of the things I've noted, and one of the things Doge brought out, the Department of Government Efficiency brought out the fact that so much of what we thought was spontaneous beliefs and behaviors was actually sponsored, very heavily sponsored with our tax dollars. Even the protests that we saw, the hands-off protests that we saw over the weekend, those were actually paid. The people were paid. And I also saw something that, did you see this too? Let me know what you think. I noticed that I saw almost no Black people in these protests. And somebody said that the sponsors advised the people organizing the protests not to put Black people in the protest. I don't know why, but you saw very few. But these people have real control over their followers in a way that the rest of us, if you're independent, if you're Republican, if you're MAGA, if you're just not anything, but you're not woke, we don't have someone that will do something. Even if President Trump says do this, a lot of us will be like, okay, well, let me look it up to see if it makes sense. We are not minions. We are not a cult. The Democrats, on the other hand, oh my God. But they are not only vigilant about shaping the worldview of their followers, they're really good at it. Now, one of the things groups do And we aren't even aware that we do this. We influence each other so much without us stopping and saying, I'm going to do this because they did that. Groups also determine what's acceptable when you disagree. So they will show you acceptable types of dissent. Do you remember when there were MAGA people in the audience, and it was at a race, and someone was interviewing a guy named Brandon, and the crowd started yelling, "F Joe Biden." But the journalist, didn't want to say that, so they said, "Oh, they're all saying, 'Let's go, Brandon.'" So MAGA people thought that was hilarious. So this became synonymous with, when you see "Let's go, Brandon," we all know what that means. We translated it. It means F Joe Biden. You learn from your group what's okay to do when you disagree. This, on the other hand, is the Democrats, okay? In case you can't see it, this woman has on a t-shirt that says, "Is he dead yet?" and a sign that says, "Liberation Day will be the day Trump dies." In the middle, we have people saying, "Enough, shackle Trump and deport Musk." This is not even the most extreme thing you see at these protests. And this is all from like yesterday, okay? This is not even the most extreme. Calling for murder. If you watched for a while, we had a whole episode where I talked about, after the election, all of the women that went online recording, saying they weren't even aiming at the president. They were aiming at anybody you knew who voted for him, and talking about, you should leave them, you should lie to them, you should spit in their coffee, you should do other unsavory things to their food, you should even poison them because they voted for Trump. And yet, that sign you see on the far right says, "Hate never made America great." Without double standards, the Democrats would have no standards at all. That is so hypocritical. And they have signs that says, "Socialism beats fascism." Ooh, first of all, we're not in a fascist country or state. And have they actually taken a close look at what socialism does? Now, I asked you to think about one person that you want to change. Would any of them laugh or smile or clap at any of this? Think about it for a second. I know you've heard me rave about how much this product has helped me. What about you? Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. Found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut. Types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, including me, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Plus, they offer an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or ingredients, and you'll speak to a real person ready to help. Join their private Facebook community to share success stories, recipes, and to support each other on this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/daily clout and start your transformation today. That is GETNATIVEPATH.com/DAILYCLOUT. So, thinking about that woke person that you want to save, that you'd like to pull back, I know I have a few people. I'd like all of my sisters back because there's one sister who's very influential. She's talked another sister into not talking to me. So she hasn't talked to me for years because I don't share woke values. She's an actress and has been woke for a while. She's decided to blame me for everything that goes wrong in her life. How did that happen? And because I'm not going to pretend I share woke values. And now she convinced another sister. And then one sister who was talking to me, they haven't talked to me since the election. They are so angry that Trump is in office. So if I could bring people back from the woke, I will try everything and anything. So I'm looking at what we're talking about here. It's worth a try. And guess what? The world is going to help us. And this isn't all just about what you have to do. Part of what's happening in this new era, this golden era, because Trump is president, is actually going to help us. And so is the Department of Government Efficiency. The fact that they are suspending all that funding that was going into writing woke narratives into scripts, paying celebrities to support woke viewpoints and causes, paying politicians to support woke legislation. All of that's been suspended. So that's going to change things too. And joining me, speaking of changing things, I have my friend Melinda Richards joining me from Australia. Australia is about to go into an election. So she and I talk about this stuff all the time. So welcome, Melinda. Melinda Richards is a successful author, former talk show host, and influencer. So I know you have some strong views about the woke because they have caused as much disruption in your life as they have in mine.
Oh my goodness me! And I just thought I'd trigger the woke just today, this morning in Australia. I thought I'd put my little MAGA hat on. That's just a little trigger warning for all those woke people out there who are watching. No, they won't be watching because they overall, the ability to be able to listen and digest another perspective and another point of view is very lacking in the severely woke-minded. It's all about their cause at all costs. And I think that it would do people, and that's the hardest thing, isn't it, Dina, about bringing people back from the woke abyss, is that their ability to actually stop for a second and listen to another perspective and maybe look at some facts and maybe some definitions of the word fascism and socialism and things like that, actually understand what you're talking about, might be a good start.
Well, one of the challenges we have is that wokeism is like an extremist religion. I don't know if you know anybody that belongs to a really extreme religion where anything that varies even slightly from what they condone, they say it's satanic. Yes. And you're supposed to stay away from it. So their people become more and more isolated from anything that could defy the worldview that that's being pushed on them. And you see that with the woke. And one of the things they do that's really smart, I've mentioned this several times, but some of you may not have been there. Elon Musk wrote something when he noted somebody posted how specifically newsreaders were using a script to describe things as though, it was something that happened spontaneously, that they were just making an observation, but it was word for word. And some clever person recorded it all and had a screen, and it showed all 30 people that this person recorded all repeating the same scripted lines word for word. And Elon Musk asked, why do they do that? Because if people keep hearing the same thing over and over again, the brain starts to interpret it as truth, as fact, even with no evidence. And let's be all honest about something else. 95% of people have never been trained to assess the evidence they're given. So if somebody hands you a research study on gender ideology, and it has all these people with all of these letters behind their name, and you don't know how to tell whether it's good or not, you're going to believe it, not knowing those people were paid to sell out their science in order to support that viewpoint. You won't know. It just looks like the experts who do know back this, so this must be true. Now, here's some of the language. We've talked about it before. You constantly hear this. And if you look at the footage from the weekend, you will constantly see and hear Trump referred to as a liar, a felon, a rapist. He's called authoritarian over and over again, a fascist, and a would-be king. And now they're picking on Elon. I saw something today where some woke person told another person who was supportive, who had a Tesla, how can you support that guy? He used to have slaves. Okay, they crazy. Right? But he keeps getting called a Nazi, even without the hand gesture. That's just made things convenient because everybody who talks to crowds, you see me do it when I'm going, well, we have to, everybody does that.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that, Dina, is that there are so many photographs of the politicians on the left doing that with their arms that, you know, a lot of people just started doing the reverse memes and going, well, look, this is all of your heroes doing exactly the same thing with their arms. And it's preposterous.
But they don't listen. But remember,
that's right.
The woke don't listen.
But the thing about the woke not listening and doing these sorts of things with Nazi hand salutes and putting these things out there is it's just so humiliating. It's so embarrassing. I feel like, you know, if they were to, you know, take a step back and look at their actions in 10 years' time, if you were able to sort of project most of these people and get them to see themselves and what they were like in 10 years, you know, I really do feel, and maybe this is part of sort of trying to get some of them back, I really do feel like they would feel humiliated. They would feel very, very embarrassed. I mean, this sort of stuff. And the other thing, too, is about some of the things that have been said about Donald Trump are heinous, and we understand that. But, you know, if I was Donald Trump, I'd just have a lawyer on tap that any influencer, anyone in any position of power that calls him a rapist, I mean, that's actually defamation. And this personal attacking people, never ever playing the issue, but attacking the person. And I think that maybe that's the first step in talking to people about coming back to the real world. Is like, hey,
well, we're going to talk about that. We're actually going to do that. But one of the things that's going to help us is that, again, woke values have been presented as truth for at least 25 years. Now, some of you, that's longer than you've been alive, okay? But at least for 25 years, wokeism by newsreaders, celebrities, on TV shows and films, woke values have been presented as though they were moral and true. But people were being paid to do it. So you take that incentive away, and people are going to start learning different values, and some people will be receptive. It is so unfair to call, and people saying that the Department of Government Efficiency is Elon stealing the money. Elon doesn't need our money, okay? That he's not elected, neither was Dr. Fauci. And in fact, we have some conservative influencers who've gone to people and say, well, what do you think about Dr. Fauci? Oh, I love Dr. Fauci. Okay, so it's only unelected people who are appointed that you don't like, that you have a problem with. And people act like, oh, we didn't elect him. Yes, we did. Trump had him everywhere. Elon was constantly with him. And he said, when I get in, I'm going to put him in charge of a Department of Government Efficiency to get rid of all the waste. We weren't aware of the huge fraud, but he said, I'm going to get rid of the waste. They said he's an illegal immigrant. No, he's not. That he's a fascist, they can't even define. Most of them can't spell it, let alone define it. But remember, weaponizing words is a key tactic if you are trying to indoctrinate people. So, anytime somebody doubts a woke group over the last 30 years, they've called them phobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, whatever. If you don't just automatically applaud and say, oh, this group is wonderful, without any research whatsoever, without acknowledging this, they may do this that doesn't actually jibe with my values and beliefs. This may interfere with my principles. You're not supposed to do that. Unquestioning obedience, otherwise you're phobic. If you disagree with someone who's woke, it's because you're hateful. Often they will follow that, you want me to die. Okay. If you're white, you're automatically racist. If you're a white male, you're automatically a misogynist. If you're a Trump supporter, you're a fascist. Again, they don't even know what a fascist is. And if you're a Republican, you're a Nazi. But you hear it again, 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 again. I get yelled at because people see the black face and the braids and they think, we could have a whole Poor Me episode where Dr. Dina reveals all the challenges I face from liberal white people and other black people. I am part of a tiny minority of black women who can see through the woke facade into the danger that it presents and the destruction it provides. Tiny, tiny group. And people get really mad at me. Then they did something really clever. They put lipstick on a pig. So they took our longing for improving the world, our desire for better social, more fair society, wrapped it up in social justice themes, and had catchphrases to say that this belief set is consistent with that. White silence is violence. So not only are you not allowed to disagree without being called hateful or phobic, but if you don't actively support whatever they say, that's violence. And why would you call it violence? Because then any opposition to it, no matter how aggressive, is self-defense. DEI till I DIE with the Black Lives Matter fist. Trans women are women. We hear that all the time. So often repeated on social media. People will write it in all caps and write it 15 times as if that somehow changes biology. And of course, during Black Lives Matter, they constantly yelled through megaphones, no justice, no peace. What is justice? Burning down your neighborhood? Stealing all the money from hardworking people so you can buy several homes? Come on. Now, here's another thing that they do. And you know this, Melinda. This is one of the things we're fighting against. So sit up and pay attention, everybody. They insist their way is the only way to be a good and true person. I had somebody I'm related to talk about somebody else. I was talk about the woke sister and say, but she's a really good person. She really isn't. But according to their standards, as long as you adhere to the woke narrative, you can be selfish, irresponsible, cruel, unfair, whatever. You can be depraved, you can be narcissistic, anything, but you're considered a good person as long as you stick to the woke. And they all have these signs. Have you seen these signs on people's yards? I don't think they have them in Australia, do they? Melinda, signs like this?
Oh, not really. No, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
You have a lot of people in the States. We believe
I mean,
Black Lives Matter.
Australians are too apathetic to have signs like this. Australians aren't as engaged in political conversations as the people in the United States. And a few people like to think in Australia that it's still trendy, cool, to bash Trump and trash talk America. But the reality is, and the thing that I say to them all the time is that Americans are taking their country back, and they're not just taking their country back economically, they're taking their country back environmentally and socially as well. They are now saying no to woke, and they are actively campaigning against it. And we could do a lot more of that in Australia, I have to say.
Well, I have to look at this. It says Black Lives Matter. Well, everybody's life matters. And I understood why they said it, because it's a catchy phrase for people who have been ignored, overlooked, and marginalized for centuries. But nothing the Black Lives Matter movement did was actually going to improve that. They didn't improve a single school in a single neighborhood. They didn't improve the culture. They didn't do anything but put money in the pockets of their leaders. Now, they also have on this sign, no human is illegal. Well, you can be, no, you're not illegal, but you can be illegally somewhere you don't belong. Love is love. We've talked about that. That is.
Oh, that's my big one. That's my big one, because this is where we're going after the children. And if people don't understand that and don't understand what's sitting behind this one, I mean, they're all triggers for me, but this love is love. I think everyone in
Well,
the Western world needs to delve into that one a little bit further.
it's predators of all kinds, and it's also describing lust, depravity, kinks,
Yes.
abusive relationships. All you have to do is relabel. So what it is misattribution. One of the tactics
Yeah.
I talk about in abusive relationships. All you do, you don't change anything about the act or the outcome. All you do is change the label. So by saying love is love and putting really pretty pictures, people don't look at, what are you really trying to convince me of? Women's rights are human rights. Well, okay, science is real. Yes, it's too bad you ignore it to say trans women are women. Water is life. Huh? Where did that come from? And it says injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Probably that's true. So they mix in. This is really clever when you're trying to manipulate people. Mix in facts with fantasy. So science is real, but it has to be objective, methodical, and it has to be something that you can replicate. Water is life. Yes, for humans and most animals on the planet, yes, it is. But what has that got to do with love is love? What has that got to do with Black Lives Matter movement? I mean, seriously. Um, but this is how they convince them they're good people no matter what, as long as they adhere to left wing values. They ignore facts, evidence, and the impact of their beliefs on policies and policies on society. They ignore the fact that it was their own rhetoric, or I don't think they ignored it. I think they did it on purpose. Their own rhetoric is so violent, they caused people to try to assassinate Donald Trump. They are setting fire to cars, to Teslas, and they are attacking people in their cars. People have actually been hospitalized. They are actually hitting people. They are putting swastikas on the cars. And what is hilarious is that most people that own a Tesla are Democrats. They're left wing. That's why they have an electric car. So they're attacking their own because the leadership told them to get back at Elon. And also with that, again, about ignoring evidence and policies, when they talk about trans women or women, UN, now the UN is dodgy and shady and we need to get away from it, but they did a report showing that female athletes lost nearly 900 medals in transgender males. Those are real
That's
people.
oh my gosh, that's horrendous. I mean, I knew it was a terrible problem, and I knew that problem was growing, but that's really, really, really awful. All that training, all that hard work, all of that dedication and discipline those poor girls and women put into their sport. And the irony is, of course, is that they talk about women's rights. I mean, honestly, this is the biggest attack
The
on women's
only right,
rights.
but they've convinced women that the only right that women need to fight about and focus on, because they control these people, they've narrowed their focus. So the only thing you need to worry about is your right to get an abortion up until birth. That is all the only women's rights thing you really need to focus on. Because if you look at all the other rights, we actually lose when you put unqualified people in a position based on an identity rather than qualifications and merit. So they don't talk about any of that. Well, let me do this though, Melinda, because I'm telling you, I hope some of you, and I'm talking to you, Richard, I need to teach a course on this, just on who are the woke and how can we pull them back, because the more I dive into this, the deeper it becomes, and talking about it in an hour is tough. So I'm going to quickly go through what I found, and then we can talk about what you think. The double standards. One of the things the woke will not do is consider how hypocritical they are, how they will be so critical of something if a conservative or Trump supporter does it, but the same behavior or worse by someone on their side, and they completely ignore it. Ban white men. That is racism. Okay. Also, they ignore the clashes between their own causes. So there's Islam versus women's rights, Islam versus LGBT, trans versus women versus science versus parents, Black Lives Matter movement versus traditional civil rights, and DEI versus anti-discrimination. Woke leaders know that people are drawn to popular causes. Angry, fearful, mentally fragile people are easily triggered. Triggered people can be incited to extremism and violence. And I think this is the same person that everybody went, I know Roscoe made a comment last week about, I think it's the same guy with different hair this time, not the rainbow hair and a different outfit, same lovely build. Maybe should think about using some of the products advertised on the show. So here's something that's not surprising. This is Voltaire back in the 18th century. Those who make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Now, please know, I don't only want to apply this. Don't just apply this to the woke. Apply it to everyone. Don't let our side start doing it either. Aggression and violence are promoted to hurt outsiders, and they send a strong message to the woke. This is what will happen if you step out of line. So we have people here saying Trump is shredding the Constitution, calling Elon and Trump Nazis. Most people think assassinating a Nazi is fair enough. Look what they did to this Tesla truck. They've been stealing and cutting tires and burning cars, hitting people. So I want to quickly go through, and then I want to get your opinion, Melinda. I'm doing this fast because I want to get your opinion, and I want to make sure we have enough time. And for those of you who are watching this, sign in and comment, or when you see the recording, put comments and questions underneath, and I will actually pay attention next week. Now, I should mention that next week we are having Andrew Hartz from the Open Therapy Institute talking about how the woke ideology has infected mental health and how it's causing a huge problem. So we're going to talk about that next week. But right now, how do we start pulling these people back from the edge? Now, please know, when someone is indoctrinated, it requires more than just giving them new facts. First of all, they're probably going to ignore the facts. They're going to be very defensive, so they won't listen. They'll turn away. They'll change the subject. We have to be able to deconstruct, break those rose-colored glasses that they have with regard to the woke. It has caused willful blindness. Just think to yourself, invisible gorilla, okay? When you're dealing with the woke, think invisible gorilla. There is so much bad stuff that is being done to woke people and being done to society, And because of their conditioning, they just don't see it. Their rose colored glasses don't just make everything look happier and nicer and more fair. It also takes details out that you would need to have critical thinking and to be able to really assess what's going on. Tactic one, recognize the issues. The woke don't just have bad ideas, they're indoctrinated. They experience painful cognitive dissonance whenever they encounter opposing ideas and beliefs. It actually causes them discomfort. It makes their stomach ache. You know how you get that when somebody says something really awful and you feel like somebody's punched you in the stomach? This is how they feel. Expect opposition. If you actually have a discussion with someone woke about the wrongness of their beliefs, about the way they've been indoctrinated and coerced and brainwashed, they're going to get mad. Even if you tell them, look, I disagree with you about this particular issue, they are going to have a fit. So understand, you're going to have to deal with anger, frustration, and refusal to even consider your perspective. And you have to be careful because woke indoctrination is especially appealing to people with mental health issues. And I don't just mean psychopathology or sociopathy, where they're like a totally aggressive psychopath trying to ruin the society. We're talking about cluster B personality disorders, where people are still functional, but they have real issues. So we're talking about people that have antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic, where they need attention and they're constantly making scenes and doing hypersexual, narcissistic personality disorder, and bipolar. So you're dealing with someone with mental health issues, which means their reaction to you could be extreme. So please be careful in talking to them about that. Remain calm and firm. Make sure you have evidence. All you have to do is go on social media and find some people who are constantly downloading evidence. Just save it. You can save files, screenshot it, and keep it somewhere. Say, when they're ready, I'm going to show them this. Okay, have evidence to support your claims. And what we're doing, okay, here's the social psychologist coming in. We're planting seeds to counter their brainwashing. So some of it is going to actually come to them late at night. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Insert evil laugh here, okay? But it's all for the good. Okay, ask some questions. Here's another tactic. Ask some questions. Ask, did your group make up things to scare you? And in case you can't see it, Jasmine Crockett claimed that the Proud Boys poll watchers are allowed to hold guns to people when they go to vote. That is so wrong. They would never do it. It's never been done. Whoopi Goldberg, we talked about this before, said if Trump got into office, he was going to reinstate slavery. Saying that Elon Musk had slaves.
Oh my God.
Okay, ask them, if you don't accept everything your friends support, how do they respond? This is something that will haunt them at night. I had this happen to my eldest niece. She's still well captured by the woke, but she started asking a few questions and the world came down on her head from a great height. Starts to make you think, if they have so many valid points, why don't they just show me the evidence? Why don't they discuss it with me? Why do they just get angry? Ask, do you have people advising you to reject anyone with differing views? How can we have a fair, just, and inclusive society if you reject anybody who doesn't agree with 100% of everything you agree with? And calling people unsafe. It's not safe. Joy Reid was famous for this, constantly telling people they weren't safe. What not safe means to the woke means you may come across somebody that doesn't agree with you. And the woke have worked really hard to completely remove their followers' resilience. So they don't know how to handle disagreement. All they do is just get hysterical and bullying. Ask them, do you research what you're told or do you just accept it without question? Ask, if I show you materials to support what I'm saying, will you consider it? Now, just so you know, they're always asking you for source. When you say something, yeah, well, source. And this, I thought this meme was funny where the guy said, guys, watch out for the waterfall. Effing conspiracy theorists. Where's your tinfoil hat? And then the last person says source right as he goes over the waterfall. But they do that to
Oh,
get you to back down, because if you're not somebody who's used to having to have research to back up everything you say, you don't know what to say. But they will avoid at all costs any information that conflicts with what they believe. They will find some random weird reason why they can't read it, why they can't look, why the fourth person on that particular study wasn't agreed with by the medical association 15 years ago. I mean, they will find the most obscure reason just to discount everything you show them. So often you have to tell them, okay, do your research. I'll tell you where to look, but have some research available, because we bring receipts. The conservatives who are talking against this wokeism bring receipts. And remember, inability to consider a different perspective without deep discomfort is a sign of indoctrination. So when these people come across stuff that bothers me, I actually read it. But after 9 years in university and 7 years studying statistical analysis and research analysis and all of that, I can actually read anybody's study and see if it's solid or not. This is one of the reasons they get mad at me. Okay, tactic 3. Okay, we're almost done, and then I will have almost 10 minutes for you to tell me what you think. Give it time. This is what I do with my shared friends now. My sisters won't talk to me, but with my shared friends, with my woke friends, I just move to a different topic where we agree, to things we find funny, to things like helping people in the community where we have shared interests. Again, the funded advocacy and protests have made woke seem more popular than it actually is. They were stunned when Trump won the election because their side was lying to them about how popular Trump and his values were. Woke are facing real opposition for the first time in decades. And be willing to accept rejection for your beliefs. Don't let their bullying change your stance. We have backup now. We've got a president now. And even in Australia, believe me, Australia constantly watches what the US does. So they're being held to a new standard because we have a president with balls who says, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to pay for that. And some of the immature and outlandish ways the woke are behaving has led some to start questioning. So that haunting in the night, it's happening already. Because before, nobody ever held their feet to the fire. Nobody ever questioned what they did. This is so immature when you're supposed to be a member of government. When you just say anything somebody says you disagree with, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's not somebody like a 3-year-old. And here's your job. In addition to this, openly oppose woke policies in your family, schools, and workplace. Now, you don't have to go on a rant, but do not pretend to agree. Those days are over. If you don't agree, say, you know what? That doesn't fit my values and principles. Even if they get mad at you and start having a temper tantrum, the good news is I have a little bit of an advantage because I'm 5'11". And while I am very feminine looking, I also look like coming against me would not be a smart idea. So while people yell at me, they do. I look unintimidating enough to get yelled at a lot. I get rejected because of this, but I don't back down, nor should you. So 6 minutes we've got, Melinda. What do you think? And for the rest of you, questions or comments, come on. I know you have woke people that you want to get this to.
This has been amazing once again, Dina, because you always are able to give us this context and background to people's behaviors. And it's a very, very good reminder about what we're actually dealing with. My only comments around pulling people back is, I've made the decision to ask the question, is it worth it? What is the person that is clearly deranged now, is clearly going down certain pathways, is repeating lies that are, you say to them, well, that's not true, don't really say much more than that, and they keep having that level of indoctrination. Maybe you just have to say, I want to let it go. But at the end of the day, though, that doesn't mean that not speaking out is a good thing. I think what's happening now as part of this great awakening is, even if you do lose a couple of wokies, lose a couple of woke friends, then your ability to speak out and your ability to bring the sense and the balance back into society is a good thing. And my tactic is the thing that you put up in one of your slides, is I now ask questions. That's my primary tactic, is when I hear the lies being repeated and they're lies, you just ask a couple of questions really nicely, flippantly almost. I just go, well, what about that? Very, very casually. And it does, for some people, it does make a difference. It takes them a while, as you said, but it does make a difference. But I do think all of us as individuals need to decide whether it's worth it. We need to decide what sort of society we want, but we also then need to understand who's going to be in your beautiful circles that you wrap around, that beautiful diagram that you've put out, where you've got your close people. Maybe push some of them out to the outer circles if it's good for your own life and your own mental health as well. So, but asking questions is the thing.
Absolutely. Well, also too, you're right. You have to ask yourself if it's worth it. But one of the reasons I think it's important to stand up is because, again, a lot of the personality disorders and mental health issues woke people have include a desire and a need to be approved of and to be liked. And that's one of the reasons, one of the first things the leadership did was pay people to make wokeism look a lot more popular than it actually was.
Yes,
But they know that a lot of these people will follow. I have people in my family that will follow any trend. If the trend says you have to start eating your own poo, I suspect a few of them will actually start doing it. So
well,
anything.
the shaving head thing, that for me was the most classic example. When a woman shaves her head, that is a very, very extreme thing to do. And as soon as a couple of sort of high profile influencers came out and started shaving their head after Trump won the election, all of a sudden there was this trend. And you had what looked like normal women, but clearly they're not normal. They're clearly mentally ill. But that shaving the head thing was the pinnacle of a trend that will happen overnight, that they will just follow blindly. Oh, okay, I'll just shave my head then.
They did it during Black Lives Matter as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things in both cases, these women didn't understand. When was the last time you saw women with shaved heads? It was in the concentration camps. Okay, so these women are people are so captured. But again, their own mental illnesses, their own personality disorders are working against them staying woke, because the more we speak out unapologetically and strongly, this is why I said stand up. Don't let them keep taking over your workplaces. Stand up and say, no, I am not going to support something inconsistent with my values. Build your resilience, okay? Be as resilient as possible. Understand there's no job you can't do without. There is no contract you can't live without. I have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars standing up for what's right against what's woke. You can do the same. This is how we get our world back. We cannot do it without sacrifice. So I want all of you to think about that. Please send me a note, write to me. We're going to talk to Andrew Hartz about speaking of the mental health issues, one of the reasons so many people have mental health issues is because the activists took over the mental health field, not just in the United States, but in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and they are causing huge problems. They are actually inflaming the problems that these people have because it serves their cause and their purpose. So we're going to talk about that next week. But in the meantime, you have a topic, you have an issue. If you want me to detail more of anything, just let me know. Okay, I'm here for you. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Melinda. And I will see you all next Tuesday. No more boring Tuesdays. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye bye.
Bye.